People nearing their 30s and in their early 30s have this intense pressure to be married already. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, I'm going to turn 30 in a couple of months, or my 30th birthday is coming up, but I'm still not married. I'm not even in a relationship. I'm not even actively dating. What do I do?" Right? There's this state of panic that people are in, and they wish there was an easy way to solve this problem. And that desperation leads to bad outcomes in the dating market or marriage market. And in turn, it reduces their chance of getting married. So it's a kind of vicious cycle that a lot of people get into when they're nearing their 30s. So I always tell them one thing: you need to break free from the shackles of this imaginary timeline that you've set for yourself, whether it's you or the society around you that's created. You need to break free from that timeline saying, "Hey, I need to be married by 30." Now, people say, "Hey, it's easy to say that, but how do you do it?" It's very difficult to break free from the shackles because we're all conditioned to believe in certain milestones. You need to go to college at 18, you need to get married, by a certain age, you need to have kids by a certain age, you need to retire by a certain age, and so on. So, not to sound very nihilistic, but if you think about the human life, it is quite pointless. There is not much in it. In order to make it more interesting, in order to make it more creative, we have, as a society, we have designed this life where we go through different stages of life, and people are now expected to go through different stages of life in order to navigate life smoothly. So, how do you break free from that template if that template isn't serving you? The question is very different for each person, and naturally, the answer is quite different as well. So, I'm going to just share an analogy, and I'd like each of you to really think about this analogy and how it applies to your life because it might apply very differently to each of your lives. When we were kids and we had tests and exams, if you haven't started studying or if you're not actively learning, you would say, "Oh my God, I have a test a week from now. I haven't started studying. I better start studying," right? So then onwards, there's this pressure that builds up, and all the learning that you do towards that test, which is coming up in 1 week, is pointless. You're not learning for the sake of learning, you're learning for the sake of testing, correct? Instead, if you said, "Hey, there is a test coming up, I haven't started studying, I don't really completely understand it, but I am not going to cram. Instead, I am actually going to learn something that I do want to learn." It could be something completely different. It has nothing to do with that test that is coming up. If you really want to learn something, you will enjoy learning it and you will find yourself trying to test your knowledge at your own pace when you're ready. Think about self paced courses that we take. We take our own sweet time, and everybody takes a different period of time to complete, the same course that is the same number of hours and so on. It depends on our interest levels, it depends on our ability levels, it depends on so many things, right? So when you think about marriage, it's similar. It's kind of like a test in school. You are going to the school not because of your choice. You're being tested on a subject on a schedule not because of your choice. So you don't feel empowered to make these choices, to strive for these choices to have the best outcomes. If you think about getting married by 30, it's very similar. You feel like you're a part of the society that believes that you need to get married, right? And you also feel like the society believes that you need to be married by a certain age, 30 maybe. So it's very disempowering for you to actually take action and to ensure that these choices have the best outcomes. Instead, if you said, "Let me ask myself two questions. Do I want to be in a relationship, a long term committed relationship like a marriage?" Right? And another question being, do I need to do it by a certain age? And if you answer these questions for yourself, not from the perspective of somebody else or a society, but if you answer those questions for yourself, if I had a choice to do this exactly my way, would I get married? When would I get married? And once you've answered these questions and you've identified your choice, you will find it far more empowering to actually take action. Now, when you answer this question, if you say, yes, I want to get married and I want to be married by 30, and if you're turning 30 tomorrow, that's not going to work, right? You haven't even gone through that process of finding yourself a partner, so you can't be testing yourself the next day, right? So, marriage or finding yourself a partner is kind of like a test based on the analogy that we used, right? So, you want to ask yourself these questions to really ask yourself at the end of the day, whose timeline is this? Who set the schedule for testing my relationship skills? If it is you who set it, then you have to do everything in your power to make sure that you do what you want to do. But if it wasn't you, then really ask yourself if this is for you, and if this is for you, how would you do it? And create your own template, create your own timeline, and do it so that you will set yourself up for success, not failure.